When I watched new Katseye's music video Animal, I realized there is something very smart happening with their branding. It almost feels like their previous work gave us separate puzzle pieces, and now they're finally coming together into one picture. So today, I want to talk about 3 branding factors that are really working in Katseye's favor and why their strategy is so smart, especially the last one. It's something almost every artist has go through at some point, but not everyone knows how to manage it. And if you're into this kind of videos, make sure that you will hit like and subscribe button. The first thing Katseye is doing really well is quality control. One of their biggest criticism around their earlier releases were that some of their songs felt almost too designed for TikTok. You would get a few catchy phrases, repeat them, add choreo, and that's basically the song. It was great for creating the trend, but it didn't always give you a song you would necessarily put in the background and just listen to. Gabriella already felt like a shift. For me, it was one of their strongest songs vocally, and now with Animal, they're leaning into that even more. There is actual room for the girls to sing, and Lara and Sophia especially get vocal-centric parts where you can really hear them. Then we have Ed Sheeran being one of the writers on Animal, which is interesting too. Not because having a famous songwriter automatically makes the song better, but because it shows that they're investing in their songwriting. But what I like the most is that they're not abandoning what worked before. Let's be honest, Animal is still catchy. It has the choreo, it still has moments that can work perfectly on TikTok, but now the song also works outside of TikTok. And that's what a good quality control should look like. You don't completely change the product every time somebody's criticizing you, but you pay attention to what people are missing and keep making the product better and stronger. Katseye got our attention with songs that were extremely easy to participate in. Now they're giving us songs that we can appreciate for their vocals and songs that are telling the story. And that's exactly what a pop group needs if they want to build a strong brand and real staying power. The second brand factor for me is the world building. At the beginning, they didn't really need to build a Katseye universe because the members themselves were a story. People watched Dream Academy, then the documentary, followed the girls, choose their favorites and built a relationship with them before Katseye even had a much music out. Now, they don't need to rely on that anymore. The music itself is starting to create the story. And Animal really made me notice it because there are moments that immediately reminded me of Gabriella. There is the ring scene, the red outfit, even some of the editing and the overall feeling of certain shots. And yes, they had the same editor who worked on Gabriella. Maybe every detail isn't supposed to connect, but there is enough in the common, and I started wondering whether there are 2 videos exist in the same world. And that's already valuable because the moment I'm asking that question, I'm thinking about Gabriella again while watching Animal. I feel like there is so many Eastern acts in the video, and then they brought Demi Moore into it, and by the end she says,
"Alright, let's get wild."
So now I'm wondering, what does that mean? Is wild the next chapter? Is Animal introducing us to the world? Are these things in this video that we're going to understand differently once we see that what comes next? Anyway, let me know what you think. They're making me guess, and I think you guys probably guessing too. That what makes this kind of world building so effective. You don't explain every connection to the audience. Instead, you give us enough that we start looking for the connections ourselves. And suddenly, the music video has a life beyond the first watch. People go back, compare scenes, notice references, make theories, and talk about what might come next. And that creates one of the most powerful tools in marketing: invested audience. Instead of every release existing on its own, Katseye is starting to make the releases feel like chapters. You finish one, but there is always something that makes you curious about the next one. And the last one, and probably the most important for me, is narrative control. Because when Katseye started, their story was almost bigger than their music. Before we really knew Katseye as artist, we knew the project. We knew HYBE and Geffen were creating this global girl group, we watched Dream Academy, then documentary, we knew about the competition, the members, and all the drama surrounding how the group came together. That was actually a very smart way to launch them because people had already built a relationship with Katseye before there was even a large catalog of the music to listen to. But eventually that story can become a problem. You don't want people to talk forever about the show that created you. At some point, the group itself needs to become more interesting than its origin story. And I think that's exactly what happened. We barely talk about Dream Academy anymore. We're talking about Gabriella, Iconic by Mistake, Animal, their vocals, their performances, the music videos, and fashion, and what they're going to do next. They managed to move the conversation from how Katseye was created to what Katseye is creating. And Iconic by Mistake is such an interesting example of this because instead of ignoring the amount of criticism and controversy around these HYBE girl groups, they actually brought 3 of them together and made the criticism part of the concept. The whole attitude is basically haters will hate, potatoes will potate. And it's not defensive, they're not making a serious statement asking everyone to understand them. They're almost making fun of the fact that people are going to talk regardless. And that's what narrative control is. You cannot control what millions of people say about you. You can, however, keep giving them something more interesting to talk about. And I think Katseye has become very good at doing exactly that. First, the conversation was created for them. The survival show, the documentary, the lineup, the drama. Now they are creating the conversation themselves. And the Animal is really good example of where that strategy has taken them, because we're not sitting here and talking about how Katseye was created anymore, we're actually talking about their music.